For more than a decade, FTI has strived to become the leader in the aftermarket performance transmission and converter industry. We've joined forces with McLeod Driveline Components under the leadership of Top Fuel Funny Car pilot Paul Lee, and now have a larger distribution network, more resources, and more power. Come see us in the pits and ask how you can join the FTI family. It's not cheating, it is the competitive edge.
It's time for an inside look at the most powerful motorsport on the planet. WFO Radio, NHRA Nitro. This is WFO Radio.
Hey everybody, welcome back. WFO Radio back on the air after a great weekend in Charlotte, North Carolina. The Circle K 4-wide Nationals at zMAX Dragway, the Bellagio of drag strips. It was awesome, as in we got it in. Yes, leading up to the event, like there's a scale, a curve, if you will, as to the greatness of an event. And so many people were telling me, like, this ain't happening. Don't bother going. Cancel the event. All of that stuff. People were saying it. And instead, we got all 3 days in. We got every session in. And we had a good crowd, all things considered, and a great race. Super exciting. Austin Prock wins in Top Fuel. If your last name is Prock, you won. Because Jimmy and Thomas and Robert Hight, they won in Funny Car. Pro Stock Motorcycle, Gaige Herrera, the undefeated man. Gaige Herrera and Deric Kramer in Pro Stock. Amazing stuff. We're going to do a new episode of Hear It from Heiner. Michael Heiner gets a Patreon-only show on WFO Radio, and just 7 episodes in, they are a race winner. Amazing coincidence, but we're going to hear all about that later today for the Patreons only. It's going to be great. I have reached out to the voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhardt. I don't have him down there in the ready room just yet, but I did just get a thumbs up from Alan Reinhardt. And so we should be good to go talking about the race, breaking it all down, what we saw, what we experienced. 4-wide, the quickest race of the year, the most, performance-based race of the year so far. And it was great. Next up, going to be Chicago, which is one that if you're a drag racing fan, this is an all hands on deck moment, in my opinion. Yes, I am cheerleading a little bit. I'm compelling people. I don't know if I want to go. We need you to go. We need you to go to that one. I'll explain all about it a little bit later. But first and foremost, I want to tell you about the people who make it possible for me to do this, right? Just like you see a sponsor on the side of a race car. You say, wow, that company, thank goodness for them, because without them, that race car wouldn't be on the track. And it's for those people. And the next time I need that thing or something or anything, I'm going to consider that business because they support something that I like. It is no different with this show. Phillips Connect, for instance, Smart Trailer Technology, the transportation industry. We are so honored to be able to tell you about Phillips Connect and all their different sensors and what they do for anybody that is in the over-the-road business. If you would like a personalized introduction, all you got to do is email me, Joe, at WFOradio.com. You can go to their website, phillips-connect.com, to learn about all the different sensors and the way it all works. But the bottom line is, if you're in the transportation industry, you shouldn't have your trucks out there on the road without being connected so that you can keep up with not just the location, that's the easy part, but what's going on in the truck. Is it safe? Do you have a tire going down? Do you have a wheel bearing that's heating up? They can keep track of all of those things. Phillips-connect.com. The folks at Foggit, 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 very important for your very high dollar, very expensive cylinder wall finish. At the end of a night of racing, let's say you're one of those Lucas Oil Series racers that made it all the way to the final round. Saturday night, we finished the race early. You've just won the race. Now you're going to put it in the trailer after racing all night, and it's moist, and it's humid, and it's cool. What do you think is happening? Condensation, microscopic corrosion. And that's all very bad for maintaining the inside of your engine. But what are you going to do? You spray a little Foggit in there. Foggit, they're a contingency sponsor in the NHRA. Go to the website. It also works on firearms, like the armorists are getting very into Foggit. You should definitely try it. Foggit, Foggit.com. Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. New episodes of Hidden Horsepower up and coming out very, very soon. So if you want to learn a little bit about ring seal, if you want to learn a little bit about combustible hydrogen, if you want to learn about all of those things, go check out that podcast. But it's all an exercise in ring seal. And if you're building an engine or you're an engine builder, you should definitely be using Total Seal. I would love for you to not take my word for it and go listen to the people on the Hidden Horsepower podcast. If you need one ring, if you broke a ring, if you need one ring, you can go to their website, totalseal.com. They got a lot of resources there. And Hartford makes the final round, was number one qualifier, back-to-back races, having the best season of their pro stock career this year in 2023. Pretty amazing stuff. Speaking of good seasons, Bernie's Speed Shop, Bernie's.com, BURNYZZ.com. Go to their social media, like do it right now immediately. Open a browser and check out Bernie's, whether it be on the gram or however you get your social. 100,000 square feet. Yes, they've got a showroom. They're buying, they're selling. They've got exotics in there. They got classic muscle in there. If you're looking for something specific, if you want to sell your car on consignment, they can do it for you. But they also have frame off restoration capabilities, extremely high level stuff going on. And most importantly, in my opinion, is that Josh Hart has built an amazing community of people who love cars over there in Ocala, Florida. And it's the energy of the facility. So if you get involved, whether it be buying or selling or having them do a restoration on the machine that you've had in your family for 50 years, you know you're going to get it done right because of the chemistry over there. Go to Bernie's.com to find out more information. And then, of course, there's FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters. Whether you're running one of the $1 million bracket races or .90 out there in the NHRA Super Street, Super Comp, Super Gas, Top Sportsman, Top Dragster, Big Power, or you've got an amazing street car that you want to know you can go to the grocery store reliably and show off, right? I thought I had the coolest car in the parking lot until this guy showed up. That's FTIperformance.com. Check them out. We did miss Paul Lee out there, though, but we'll get him back real soon. Later on in the show, I'll tell you about samtech.edu. I'll tell you about Frank Hawley's drag racing school. Frank was out there, and I'll tell you about Marvin Rodak's coffeeandgrills.com, the hot sauces and the spice rubs, everything that is so good. And while I'm telling you about stuff, right, and everybody is hopefully sharing the show because Reinhardt is about to come on, we're going to record a new episode of Hear It from Michael Heiner. Hear It from Heiner is happening today. If you've got a question about how they won pro stock, it's not too late to get in as a Patreon. Patreon.com/WFO Radio. Michael Heiner, Deric Kramer, the whole team over there did such a great job. Adam and Chris and just everybody that was part of the team to score that victory. Those runs, those 55s were amazing runs when corrected. Amazing stuff. How did they get it done? We're going to talk about all of that in a very detailed way on Hear It from Heiner, which we'll record later today. Patreons only. And the Patreons voted, right? I was like, hey, maybe we should open it up to the regular audience, a couple of weeks later. And what do you think, Patreons? And that's what they get. They get to vote. And they voted no. So join the Patreons, patreon.com/WFO Radio. All right. The voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhardt, is all ready to go. We're going to bring him on right now. Joining us now, Alan Reinhardt. What's up, AR? How are you? Welcome back.
Hey, I'm good. Back home, and looks like I'm actually going to be home for a few days. So looking forward to that and just figuring out what the heck I'm going to do.
What are you going to do? Where's the CUDA? What's up? Where's the Mustang? What's all going on over there? Everybody wants to know. There's the CUDA.
Right there.
All right.
The Mustang is still in paint shop jail, so I'm going to go check on it this week. But I've got a couple of things working on the CUDA that are working on the funny car project that I'm going to try to get taken care of, just kind of creeping along a little bit at a time on that. So that's going to be my first focus for the next couple of days.
There you go. So there's Michael Heiner. He's out there in the audience. He's going to be doing a Patreon show for us. We're going to learn all the details, the insides, the outsides, the ups and the downs of the Get Biofuel team win. Of course, we'll speak with Deric Kramer on the show, but he's calling you a slacker. Let's go, Reinhardt. Where were you?
What do you mean, where was I? I was there. I was there the whole time.
He means you were 30 seconds late for the show is what he's talking about. He's just joking.
Now, I'm still trying to figure out how we spent the whole weekend talking about how tightly packed the whole pro stock field was. I'm still trying to figure out how the guy with the worst reaction time in the final round won the race.
It's the numbers, man. It's the total math. But yeah, he was just, good enough to get the job done. Pretty amazing. Hartford made that hard right, and Deric Kramer made a blazing run. Got the job done. One of their best runs ever corrected.
Yeah, but it's just like I said, we spent the whole weekend talking about you better not be late, you better not be late, you better not be late, and then in the final round, the last guy off the line won. As opposed to, well, let's just pick one out of this guy, the alcohol dragster final round, where Coughlin wins it on a triple hole shot. The slowest reaction time won Pro Stock, and the slowest car won top alcohol dragster. So that's like,
yeah. Well, exactly. It's just, but that's what's great about it. That's the whole point. That's why you got to show up. But let's start out. We'll stay in Pro Stock. But I want to open it up. I want to expand it, and I'm being critical. This is critical. 7 seconds. Sean Langdon gets timed out in Vegas. It's one of the most publicized things that we've had in our sport in a couple of years. Every show talked about it. And I'm just kind of stunned that people are still getting timed out. Like, how do you get, and I know I'm not driving, I'm not on the spotlight, I'm not feeling the pressure, I'm not doing any of that thing, but we had more than a fair share of just issues and timeouts and problems. It's 7 seconds, man. You got to get in, just get in fast. Josh Hart picked up the pace. He was getting in about 3.5 seconds. Everyone's getting in, and we just had 4 wides over for the year. So let's put an exclamation point on it. 7 seconds, people were still getting timed out.
Well, it's, the most important thing, and I firmly believe this, I do a seminar at all the 4 wide races where they invite all of the drivers to come up, whether you've run it or not, if you want to come up and have a refresher course. I didn't do one in Charlotte because I had a late flight, but Bob Brockmeyer
that's it.
Did,
it's Reinhardt's fault, everybody. That's all of a sudden, that's the reason.
Well, Brockmeyer did it, and I think he's pretty well versed in how the system works since he's the guy that built it. But it's a real simple thing. The absolute number one thing you need to do, don't overthink it. When all 4 drivers are pre-staged, do your normal routine. And if everybody does their normal routine, they're all going to blink that second bulb within 2 seconds or 2.5 seconds. And just don't overthink it. Sean Langdon was pretty open about it, and I applaud him for taking the blame for this. He said, he kind of got caught up in a personal vendetta that you can't take care of in a 4 wide race. If he and Josh do something going forward in a 2 wide race, well, okay, well, it's just 2 of them, but he got it in his head that I'm going to show Josh, and it bit him because it was 4 wide. This week, you just have to concentrate on what you're doing. If everybody that goes in 2 wide, right? Top bulb. Okay, what do? Take a breath. Look at the gauges. Check things over. All right, bump in. If you're in a nitro car, right off the pedal, on with the fuel, bump in. If you're in a Pro Stock car, set the brake pressure to bump in. If you do exactly that routine, everybody will be staged within 2.5 seconds of each other, and it's a complete non-issue. It's when you start thinking too much that you get into trouble.
Yeah, well, we saw it a couple of times. There was some anger, there was some anxiety, but that's the fun of it, right? To take them out of their comfort zone. No different than NASCAR going to a road course and guys are out of their comfort zone, and so they're on the edge, and there's contact and there's anger very often. Short track racing as well. This is our version of it, where people are out of their ordinary or normal procedure, and we've seen it, we've enjoyed it, and now it's in the rearview mirror, and we're going to have 2 wide drag racing for the rest of 2023.
But I just really think that if I'm driving, I like the 4 wide because I understand how it works. I know what I'm going to do, and if somebody else is confused or uncomfortable with it, then I feel like I've got an advantage over that person. I'm going to go and do my normal thing. Once the first driver stages, something in your head has to go tick, tick, tick. Now, in a nitro car, it's not much of an issue because in a nitro car, you're staged, you're ready to go. You've got your foot off the pedal. There's nothing you have to do other than hit the gas, and if the tree flashes, you hit the gas. In a Pro Stock machine or in a Pro Mod car or in an alcohol car, when you've got to have the engine revved up, when you've got to have other things going on, if I've got a 5-second clock in my head, once I get to 5, I'm hitting the gas. And if I sit there on the rev limiter for an extra 2 seconds, I don't care, but I'm going to be ready when the tree comes down. And I think, like for Gianna, and I hate it what happened to her, but she was sitting there waiting for John Hall to stage. And when he timed out, she just missed the tree. So she had no chance of winning the race. In a 2 wide race, if you time out, I win. So it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if I'm ready, I'm not ready. My reaction time starts with an 8. Who cares? If you time out, I win. But in a 4 wide race, you still have to race. And so once you're mental clock gets to 5 seconds, gets 6 seconds, you should hit the gas. And I don't care if that other driver stages or doesn't stage. I'm going to be ready to beat somebody so I can go on to the next round. And if that gives me an edge because I understand the way the procedure works, I'll take it every time.
Absolutely. And people were out of their comfort zone. I spoke with Gianna on the starting line, and it was one of those situations where a lot happened in a very short amount of time. John got timed out. Tim Kalungian was angry, and he thought he saw something, but John took his helmet off, looked right back at him. He goes, I got timed out. Like, just real, like, and then Gianna's like, what? And she was upset, and everyone was upset. And isn't that one reason why people stick around and watch, to see, people struggle, right? To see people struggle in a challenging situation. That's certainly what that was.
Well, I guarantee you this, that won't happen to Gianna again, because that's a lesson that is now going to be burned into her brain. And going forward, I guarantee you, if something like that happens again, she will be ready and she'll be able to capitalize on the situation.
Well, exactly. And if not, that's part of it, right? Like Sean Langdon, if we had talked about this 4 weeks ago and I said, hey, would Sean Langdon get timed out at 4 wide? You'd say no way in a million years. But like you said, he had his own thing going, a different program that was something else. And that's what the whole point of it is, but it is in the rearview mirror. All right, so let's dive in a little bit more deeply on Pro Stock. We had the Quad of Quadras, which was awesome. Seeing that whole family out there, David out there, Matt Hartford, #1 qualifier, back-to-back races. Their car is still very, very quick and fast. Matt and Deric Kramer have to run each other in the first quad against David Quadra and Troy Coughlin, and Deric and Matt advance. They go to the second quad where Deric and Matt advance, and Deric was quicker the second time down. They go to the final round. Other side of the ladder, Mr. Back-to-back Dallas Glenn advances all the way through. Fernando Quadra is in the final round. But in the end, it's at 6:55.5 at 2:08 with the 0:49 reaction time for Deric Kramer that gets the job done. Their first win since 2019, and they go to Chicago as a double defending winner. They were the last ones to win Pro Stock in Chicago, and so they've got all the energy right now going in that Get Biofuel team.
Yeah, and the last win that they had was also at Charlotte. That 2019 win was at Charlotte. So for whatever reason, apparently either they like that track or that track likes them. I'm really curious, and I didn't get a chance to talk to him, but I'm really curious as to what happened with Matt. Why the car hooked such a hard right in the final round, if there was a tire issue, if there was a wheelie bar issue, or if there was something else. Deric Kramer deserved to win, absolutely deserved to win. But I think that's one of the things, and it came up in discussion with some friends of mine here. Somebody said that, well, they ought to split the 4 wides up, okay? They ought to, if you run Vegas 4 wide in the spring, then you should run Charlotte 2 wide. You should come back in the fall and run Charlotte 4 wide in the fall. So you've got a spring 4 wide and a fall 4 wide. And I disagreed with that, because I think when you're in a playoff situation, when you're in a championship situation, that's not the time to have some kind of point gimmick, for lack of a better term. And I have to be honest, I don't remember the win lights in those two, but I remember from the week before, it was the same situation in Top Fuel where 2 drivers raced each other every time down the racetrack, just like Deric and Matt did. And in the Top Fuel situation, Brittany Force beat Antron twice. She beat him the first quad, he advanced. She beat him in the second round, he advanced. And then in the final round, he won. And I wouldn't want a championship to come down to, hey, I beat this guy twice, and then he beat me, and now he's the champion. So that's why I think, doing it in the spring, I think is great. I think that that's the time of year for it. I like the back-to-back thing too, because it gives the fans, a chance to see 2 of them and kind of get a big dose of it instead of a little dose 6 months off and another dose. And I also I would be opposed to having that in the championship battle because of what I just said. I think that when it comes down to the championship, if you and I are running for the championship and I beat you, I shouldn't have to beat you again in an hour. You should go home.
Yeah, I remember a few years ago, Antron Brown was saying right here on WFO, and depending on how far back in the archive you want to go, I think you can find it, folks, that he would like a countdown 4 wide race to see who can really deal with the toughest stuff, ultimately a champion. But I do agree that it is, I don't want to say off-putting, but that the same 2 race each other every time. I wonder, is there a mechanism by which we can swap the ladder? Josh Hart and Steve Torrence, same deal. They transferred together. They made the final together. Neither one of them won. Steve went red. But at the semis, can we flip-flop it or something? So they're not running the same people every time, I wonder. But in the end, something to ponder as we move on from 4-wide this year. And I get what you're saying. Like, hey, I beat you twice and you beat me once, but it was when it mattered the most that you beat me, but I beat you. And that's a negative, confusing discussion for people to have.
Well, I just think when it comes down to the playoffs, that's when the pressure's on. And I don't want somebody in the playoffs going up there and trying to lay up, so to speak. You know, if you look at the quad, okay, and let's say we've got Steve Torrence, we've got Brittany Force, and then we've got Alan and Joe. Okay, Steve and Brittany aren't very worried about Alan and Joe, so I don't want Brittany going up there going, okay, if I just run 80 flat, I'm going to advance. I don't care if I beat Steve or not. I don't have to beat him until later on in the day. I don't want that kind of mentality in the playoffs. I want somebody to go up there thinking, I need to win this right now. And like I said, I think that, you know, if I beat you first round, you need to go home that weekend. As far as the playoffs go, I don't think you should have a second chance in the playoffs to come back on a given race weekend. So that's just my opinion. But I like the fact that the playoff stuff is all the, you know, mano a mano, the traditional format.
I got you. Now, Tim is saying something that I just have no idea what he's talking about, and I'm going to address it. The only thing that stinks about rain days is if they run 1 or 2 pro classes and then it rains out, you don't get a refund or a rain check on your ticket. And I don't know what he's talking about because we didn't rain out anything and we ran everything. Like, what is this? Just totally a hypothetical situation. And also that is not even true. There's a policy, Tim. So, you know, I get what you're talking about, but that didn't happen this weekend. And also, they have a policy about running a full session.
Yeah, and you know, in the event that we run around a full round of the pros and then it rains and we have to come back on Monday, or we have to, then the refund policy is bring your ticket and come back on Monday. It's as simple as that. If we don't run, then you get a credit on that ticket that you can use. If you can't come back on Monday, you can use for next year or some other time. But you know, there has to be a line someplace, right? I mean, if everything goes down the racetrack except the junior dragster final, you don't still get a full day's credit for that. So, you know, that's been the policy in place for a long time. And, you know, if Tim doesn't agree with it, well, I'm sorry about that, but that's been the policy in place for a long time. And as Joe said, we ran everything. Everything that was supposed to go down the racetrack went down the racetrack. So this weekend, it's a complete non-issue.
Well, right. And I watch the chat. Not everything makes the show. But like, there's a lot of stuff going on in the chat today that's like didn't happen. Michael Heiner, who is going to do his own show later on today, hear it from Heiner for Patreons only, says, don't swap the ladder. You have to beat everyone in the final. Okay, whatever. Again, everybody's got ideas, but we don't need to hash everything out. We're not always changing everything. Hey, I do appreciate everybody sharing the show out there. That is big as we fight up against the algorithm. Kind of interesting, though. Erica and Bo both eliminated round 1. Another first round out for Erica, the world champ, which is, we're talking about it. I don't want to put any extra anxiety over there. They are putting more pressure on themselves than anyone else, but it's just, it's not a good thing necessarily, but it's given these other personalities an opportunity to get in there in the mix. She could win all 6 of the countdown races. Like, that's possible for Erica Enders. And she said to me, they've won the championship from 9th. So they're not that worried, but they do want to get this over with. And it's not over with yet.
Well, is her team capable of stringing a bunch of, yes. But if they get into playoff time and they haven't found the winner's circle yet, they're not going to flip a switch and win 6 straight. And they know that as well as anybody else in the field. You know, you need to have found your rhythm before then. It just seems like, you know, right now the team is snake bit, and not just hers, but, you know, the elite team, I'm seeing more issues than we have. I mean, I think they've had more issues, you know, a card that doesn't start or a problem that comes up or something else on the starting line in the 5 races we've had this year than they had in 20 races last year or 19 races last year. So I don't know what it is, if they're just, you know, I don't know, you know, somebody crossed the black cat's path, or, you know, somebody, you know, kicked a puppy and now the universe is getting even with them, but something is going on over there, and they just need to work through it and get back to being the efficient team that is as mistake free as you can be, that we're used to seeing.
And that's what she said. I had a really good long conversation with Erica about a bunch of different things, and there's no lost confidence, but it is a mysterious situation. And she said, she goes, look at it this way. She goes, we're in Gainesville. We're number 1. The car doesn't start first round mysteriously. We go back to the pit area. It fires up. Since then, we haven't been right. And we have swapped everything we can possibly swap on the car. And so we're going to keep fighting it, but it is a bit of an issue. And they're fighting it. So this is what you pay to see, folks. This is why you follow drag racing, to see people who are great at what they do challenged and rise up to the challenge. And so we're going to keep watching Elite. Again, Michael Heiner later on today. We'll be doing that. Hear it from Heiner. If you want to join, you can definitely do that. Let's talk Top Fuel, where if your name was Prock in the nitro categories, everybody won, right? Yeah. Austin won, Jimmy won, Thomas won with Robert. It was a John Force Racing double. I had a great conversation with Austin, and I was like, hey, man, what is your take on this deal, this 4-wide stuff? And he goes, if I win, I'll like it. And so he must like it now, taking the win over Leah. Steve Torrence red lighted. But the way I calculated it, Alan, is if Steve was 30, he was still losing to Austin. Like, Austin was good. And Austin Prock on the board with Chris Cunningham's first win as a crew chief, Hollywood, Florida, Miami Hollywood Speedway alumni represent.
Yeah, they had a solid car. Again, David and Brittany had a great car in qualifying, set the track ET record, just missed the mile-an-hour record, which she has anyway. But, Josh ran well. There was all of the Top Fuel cars made a really good showing. The Dan Mercier no-show in round one, I think, was kind of an eyebrow raiser, but they were having an oil pressure issue when they warmed it up, changed out a pump, and that didn't fix it, changed out an engine and ran out of time, is what Rob Wendland told me yesterday. And so they weren't able to answer the bell for round number one. But that's a car that, when they hit their stride, and I don't know how much more we're going to see them this year. I think we expect to see them another 5 or 6 times probably. But that's a car I expect to make some noise later in the year. But, you're starting to see, some patterns out there now, right? I mean, the young guns in Top Fuel are kind of rising to the top right now. You look at what Justin Ashley has done, and you look at what Austin has done, and I'm not quite ready to officially signal the changing of the guard, and like you talked about Erica, another early out for the Coletta cars, which is really, really a head scratcher for me. After a good start in Gainesville, and then it's just especially Doug's car, that just baffles me that it hasn't been more of a threat than it is.
Yeah, well, we're going to have to get to the bottom of it. It is definitely interesting, but, not everybody can win at the same time. That's the thing about drag racing, is that there's only limited spots and someone's got to get through. I want to shout out to Pat Dakin, who got the call to jump in the seat at the very last second because Spencer Massey had the birth of his daughter, and I believe it's Corey Lynn. Congratulations, Spencer, if you're out there. But Dakin, who hadn't driven the car in a hot minute, as they would say, jumps in and goes out there, goes to the second round, and actually was a threat to go to the final. Way to go, Pat Dakin. That was kind of cool. Just a bunch of different interesting stories. Jacob McNeil found himself exactly what he wanted, right? Austin Prock, Justin Ashley, a chance to show what he's made of. He did go red, but I think he earned a lot of respect out there from the fellow drivers. I know Justin said something about it on the show. We're going to see more of him. And Josh Hart, who has already got the respect of his peers, but he addressed a negative situation, I thought, very well, where he said, I didn't realize I was the slow kid in the class. I didn't know that that's what they thought of me. Now I know. I'll pick up my routine a little bit. And he did, and he went to the final, had a fast car, just came up a little bit short in the final.
One of the things that I find interesting about Josh is, he's not very confrontational. He is, just a kind of quiet, unassuming guy that is going to go about his job and do it the best he can. And you look at the successes he's had in life and business, and, obviously his philosophy works out very well. But I just thought it was interesting, in Vegas, that Sean Langdon said, everybody knows this about him. And Josh said, I didn't know. And he really strikes me as the kind of guy that if a couple of veteran drivers had come over and said, hey, man, how about stepping up a little bit, that he would adjust, because he's not out there, I don't believe, to play games on the starting line. He's out there to drive his race car and to try to win. And I honestly believe that if a couple of guys had come to him and said, hey, man, speed up a little bit, would you? That's something he would have done. When I spoke to him a little bit this weekend, and that's basically what he said. He said, they don't think I'm fast enough? Okay, so I'll go in first. I don't care. I'm not doing anything to mess with anybody. I've always just done this routine, and nobody ever said I was doing it wrong, so I kept doing it.
Simple as that. It's interesting. And that's the fun of drag racing, that dynamic of what people think and they think other people know and what people actually know about what people think. It's a confusing, interesting situation watching all these athletes.
The way you said it, yes.
Right. Well, that's it on purpose. Steve Torrence had a nice conversation with Josh. Everyone's having a conversation, but at the same time, nobody needs to do anything to make it easier on the other drivers. You have 7 seconds. So if you want to stage every time at 6.8 seconds, that's your business. And it's like a pitcher pitching a ball to a batter, and he doesn't have to tell the batter, a fastball's coming, guys. It's going to be a fastball on the inside. You don't have to do that. And it's just kind of interesting. And I've had the conversation with a couple of different people who are veterans in the sport this weekend during the rain in the media center. And we were just kind of marveling on that there is an expectation of something from your competitor to make your life easier, like a gentleman's agreement or an unwritten rule or however you want to say it, when in actuality, there shouldn't be. Right, Cruz and Force, and they always get their chops busted for rolling in deep or doing whatever they think they can do, using a little starting line trickery or whatever it is. But it's not in the rules. You got 7 seconds. You got to get in there. That's it. That's the rule. If you want to go in deep, you want to put out the top bulb. That's all part of drag racing. It'll be like telling a pitcher, telling Greg Maddux, hey, man, you're 40 years old, but you can't throw a knuckleball because, that knuckleball, it flutters weird and the batter can't see it. And that's going to take him out of his routine. So you can't do that. You really shouldn't throw a knuckleball.
Okay, but you and I both race in the nitro classes, and 6 times in a row you stage first and I go in at 6.8 seconds. What are you going to do the 7th time? You're going to go in first again and just sit there and wait on me?
I'm going to wait till 5 seconds before I go in. If I know that you're doing 6.8
but
seconds.
If I have 6.8 after you stage, you can wait as long as you want.
If you have 6.8 after I stage.
Right.
But doesn't that mean I stage too early?
But you're saying he's got 7 seconds to get in. He can go in at 6.8 every time if he wants to.
Yes.
If you and I have raced 6 times, and 6 times after you staged, I went in at 6.8 seconds, are you going to stage first again the 7th time?
Probably not. But isn't that learning of how to handle your other competitor's situation? Being flexible.
So then what's going to happen? Are we just going to both sit there until we run out of gas? Because if I've decided I'm going to wait 6.8 after you stage every time, I think as volatile as the cars are these days, right? It's not 1975 when they were running 22 gallons of fuel through them and they could sit there and idle for 5 minutes and nobody really cared. As volatile as the cars are right now, I think that, the gentleman's agreement needs to be in place, because otherwise you're going to end up with a lot of carnage that's not needed and not wanted. And I think the vast majority of guys came to beat you on the racetrack, not to
make you blow up your stuff.
Right.
But I'm not, that's, I think, the extreme example. Like nobody is out there to, certainly not Josh, who obviously already changed his situation to accommodate, but no one is out there to help make each other blow each other up. Like, that's not what's going on. And I don't think anybody's accusing anybody of that. But again, to expect your competition to do something to make your life easier is to help you win. I don't know. I think it's rubbing some people the wrong way. Like, what do you mean? Why are you expecting that? If NHRA wanted that to be the rule, they would make the rule 6 seconds instead of 7 seconds. It'd be 6. It'd be 5. Get in quick. Let's make it 3 seconds. And then everybody will get in real fast. I don't know. It's just, it keeps coming up, right? The John Force, the poking it in, the rolling in deep. It just keeps coming up over and over again.
Now, rolling in deep and poking it in, that's not the same thing, because that doesn't affect your routine at all. It might affect the numbers that come up on the scoreboard, and it might occasionally make you look like you got beat on a hole shot when you really didn't get beat on a hole shot. But that really isn't, in my mind, manipulating the outcome of the race or putting you in a disadvantageous position just because I roll in an extra 3 inches.
Any final thoughts on Top Fuel, Torrence running well again? An unfortunate red light, but they had confidence high. Bobby Lagana back home after a little bit of a medical. Just very tough competition. Antron wins Vegas, out first round here. It's very tough. On to Chicago. Any final thoughts in Top Fuel that we didn't cover?
No, just you mentioned Bobby, and I was going to do that. I want to, just send our best wishes to Bobby, who's recovering back at home, as I understand it now, after he had a procedure and issue. So hopefully we'll see him back in Chicago. And both Steve and Richard Hogan were pretty vocal about the fact that the team just ain't the same when he's not there. So hopefully his issues are behind him, and hopefully we'll see him back in Chicago.
Absolutely, positive health. Funny car, Bob Tasca was the number one qualifier. Had a pretty serious explosion right on the finish line stripe early on. Ron Capps and Alexis transferred to the final round from that side of the ladder. Bottom side of the ladder, John Force, Robert Hight. So John Force has made back-to-back finals. He had won back-to-back races at the 4-wide. He gets to yet another final, comes up short. Robert Hight wins the race, but Force has been going down the racetrack. Force has been, with exception of the incident, which was very unfortunate out there in Pomona, has been strong, has been solid the past two races. For anyone that's concerned about John Force, I think John has demonstrated that that was an anomaly.
He should have been parked at lunch. And, yes, I think that, the whole Pomona thing, let's put that completely to bed. It's over. It's done. It's finished. But the only reason that John survived the first round was because two cars got center line DQs. Two cars got over the center line, and so he advanced because the other two cars were disqualified. And I said on the microphone then, and I feel the same way, you can't keep giving that team chances. And so they were able to step up, run better in the second round, and then they're definitely getting back on track. But Robert had a good car. Bob Tasca, again, good performance, just need a little bit more consistency. Alexis, how long can Alexis keep running as well as she's running without winning? I mean, it's baffling. As good as that car is, going down the racetrack every time, she's been solid, certainly been improving on the reaction time side of things. I just, they can't keep running that well and not find themselves in the winner's circle at some point. I won't be surprised when she does win, if she goes out there and, wins 3 out of 4 or something, because I think once they bust through that, just the whole mental thing will be, all right, now let's go do it again. But, that car's running good. Caps, certainly still right in the mix. And I just think, the funny car right now is just fun to watch. It really is fun to watch.
It is as good as it's ever been, maybe as good as it's ever going to be. Possibly. JR Todd in the DHL car, they qualified well. They ran in the 80s. I spoke with JR at pre-race, and he's like, things are getting better, right? They did not have the first round that they wanted, but it's a process. They got to get that, new car doing what they want it to do, but they put up some big numbers through qualifying. Mike McIntyre, on the other hand, he always does well at this race, right? I'd like to see him a little more often. Tony Shortall has got that thing flying. He was a whisker away from transferring to the final round.
Well, hopefully we'll see him in Chicago, because that's not too far away from his Ohio home base. So it'd be nice, after he had a good weekend, to come out to Chicago and try to build on that. And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention, Matt Hagan having to go to a backup car. And they ended up with an early out on Sunday. But, that's another one that's loaded up and headed back to PBRC for repairs. It's probably already there. But the difficult weekend for them when the parachutes didn't come out in the first qualifying session, and they took that thing, especially since they were working with the folks at Operation Healing Forces and had a great promotion going on with them. Once they destroyed that body, it was kind of a shame that one, we didn't get to see that on the track, or didn't get to see that more on TV. Fortunately, I guess, from the TV side of it, you saw plenty of it, because it's like, let's take a look at that again. Let's watch from another angle. Now let's look at black and white. Now, I mean, I guess the good news is they got some exposure there, but you just hate to see him tear up a race car. Fortunately, Matt was just fine. And
that's the reason why there's not a lot of trash talk or bravado in our sport, where people talk about how great they are and what they're doing and how they're dominating, because from 1 millisecond to the next you can be totally humbled. And I was speaking with Matt and Chloe before the race, and And from 1 minute to the next, they had won 3 out of 4. They had the dominant race car. They were kicking everyone's butt. They were feeling good in the pit. The music was loud. And the next minute, it's like, oh, now we've got to figure out a new car. We destroyed our primary car. And it was something random. And that's what, every driver wants to avoid, angering the racing gods. Not that Matt did. He certainly didn't. But that's why, for people who want to know, why don't these guys talk themselves up a little more, right? Because they're all like worried of what weird thing might happen to them going at 280 miles an hour in the shutdown. Yeah,
the mouth off gods can come back and smack you down in a hurry. So you got to be careful with that.
You got to be careful, and everyone fears them. Like they all fear those gods. Like, don't make them mad. Don't make them mad. Very superstitious, one way or another. Yes, Alexis, great stuff. But Robert Hight hadn't been the best little swing for Robert, but that's what Robert and Jimmy and now Thomas are able to do is keep working on a plan, keep working on a program. Robert is one of the best drivers out there, maybe ever, and they got the job done and they scored a victory.
Yeah, and it certainly they're going to win more. There's just so many good cars out there, but the way Jimmy runs his car, when you get into a situation where conditions are cool and the track temperature is high 90s or low 100s and the air is conducive, then that's Jimmy Prock kind of weather, and he's going to go out there and run good every time. And if your plan of attack when you're racing against Robert is for the driver to make a mistake, you probably need a new plan, because that's going to be a rare occurrence, as we've seen over the years.
Yes, exactly. Pro Stock Motorcycle. Anything else on Funny Car that we did not discuss that needed to be discussed that we didn't get to? Something, a note that was in your mind?
I don't think so. I think we got everything covered there. So move on.
Excellent. Pro Stock Motorcycle. Gaige Herrera, the undefeated. Gaige Herrera, the undefeated. Will he ever lose a race? People are saying no. He's going to have a career where he's never defeated, Alan. And until he's defeated, I guess they're right. Guy storms to the final round, is 0-13 in the final, 202 miles an hour, 671. People have described Andrew Hines as like the diabolical guy, like rubbing his hands together, knowing that he's got this kid, and it's showing out.
When you have the best motorcycle, going 0-13 in the final, and then having a 104.60 foot time, I mean, that's cruel and unusual punishment. If that's not kicking sand in somebody's lunchbox, I mean, come on, man. Be 40 on the tree, right? I mean, pretend you're human. Pretend that you've got some flaw. But right now, he's very highly confident, as he should be, got a great motorcycle, and taking advantage of it. And I just kind of wonder now, if anybody that's up and coming looks at the path that he took and thinks, you know what, instead of, hey, I've got an opportunity to race Pro Stock Motorcycle, put me on the fastest thing out there, maybe you come out and you run a handful of races or something on a not competitive motorcycle. Just get used to the routine, get used to the stuff when things aren't coming at you quite so fast, and you can absorb. It's amazing to me. And I've never been that fast down the racetrack, but I can tell you the difference between driving a 13-second car and driving an 11-second car is major in the car. The difference between driving an 11-second car, driving a 9-second car. And I've had more than enough people tell me over the years when they've gone to Pro Stock school, if you go drive one of the Roy Hill cars or one of the other school cars and you're running, 7 flat or 710, and then you get into a car that's capable of running 660, 650, that's light years different. But the experience of driving in the slower car helps, because you're used to the routine, you just have to move the timing around and do some stuff. And I think what Gaige did, working with the Stofers and working with, having a motorcycle with Greg Underdahl and the guys, and having a motorcycle that wasn't competitive, but to get the routine of Pro Stock, because Pro Stock is so technical. No matter how fast you've gone before, no matter what you've ridden before, nothing is as technical as a Pro Stock motorcycle. So to take a non-competitive bike, I mean, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the engine in the thing was 200 cc's smaller than what's legal, right? I mean, this thing was a toy, basically. And he went out there, ran some races, got the routine, got their comfort level, and then when they put him on a fast bike, it was like, man, hold on, because here we go. And Erica really did the same thing. You look at the time in her in her career when she was driving Jim Cunningham's car for a number of years and driving some other cars that really weren't competitive, where they were going to the racetrack knowing we're not going to qualify unless something wacky happens because they just didn't have a fast enough car. But she was still out there practicing the game, perfecting her craft, working on her skill set. So when they put her in a fast car, she didn't have to go through the whole learning procedure. When they put her in a fast car, she just went right straight to the top and hasn't quit winning since. And I just think that's a good philosophy. I think you look at, what Gaige is doing, and I think that proves it out. Go out there and learn the basics and learn the stuff without having maybe the performance that you need. But once you get comfortable with the routine, then when you've got the performance underneath you, you're ready to go. You don't have to start learning everything all over again.
Well, and that's true for everything, but as far as drag racing goes, that's why Junior Street is a deal. We were just talking on the Ignition show last night. Michael Heiner came on for a few minutes and we were kicking around a bunch of stuff. And one of our listeners, Monica from Pennsylvania, her son AJ is like 15 and he is interested and he wants a race car and the whole thing. It's like, well, what should we do? The answer is Junior Street. You got to start out slow. Like maybe you can get a race car, maybe you can go fast, but learn at the most basic level in a regular street car, staging, the starting line, going around the water box, like how to do any of that stuff, cross the finish line stripe at 75 miles an hour so you can really get used to and understand and learn all of those things. And then you pick up the pace once that is solid. There's these people that, they start out super fast, and I'm not saying that they're all going to do poorly, but just like you said, when you can learn the routine at a more comfortable speed, it's a lot easier to be better at a higher rate of speed. And I think most bracket racers will tell you that.
True. And I also think that you're going to make mistakes when you're learning. And if you're driving a higher horsepower, faster machine, then your mistakes are going to be more glaring and oftentimes more expensive. So, learning at a slower pace and then stepping up, I think I think it's been proven out enough times now over the years that that's a good way to do it. Take a year or take some time and invest in yourself, learning what you need to do before you go out there and get in the fastest car that you can get in or on the fastest motorcycle you can get on.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, before we move on from Pro Stock Motorcycle, shout out to Angie Smith for this incredible bike that won Best Appearing. The Smith family, they don't have to go as crazy as they do with their motorcycles. They have always had beautiful motorcycles. They like Matt, this is part of drag racing to him. And I get that because it's part of drag racing to me. They could have the, just standard stuff, a wrap. It would probably be a lot lighter, but they go crazy with it. And Angie won the award for Best Appearing, rightfully so.
Yeah, that thing is beautiful and also fast, by the way. So congratulations to them. And it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to seeing the first Too Fast, Too Tasty Motorcycle Challenge. We're going to see that in Chicago. We're not going to have one for the Pro Stock cars, but we are going to have it for the motorcycles.
Yeah, it's we're not going to have a Too Fast, Too Tasty in Chicago?
Not for the Pro Stock cars.
Oh, okay.
They have their call-out race.
They have their call-out race. That's right, the Peppo. So we got all these different bonus stuff going on, which is going to be very fun, and I'm into it. All right, so let's talk Pro Mod. Someone said, hey, can you squash the rumor that Pro Mod's final was run in the rain? I was on the starting line, and I will say it was not run in the rain, based on my opinion, on the starting line in lane 4. And the winner didn't come out of lane 4, but 45 seconds later, my opinion would have been it was raining. And it was that kind of moment where it was coming in right then. It was one of those deals where it was happening now and they staged and they sent them. I don't know what you do because the rain came down and shut us down and we would have been down for about 4 hours. And
we'd have been done. We would have been done.
And so what do they do in that situation with a 4 wide? Like you're not coming back to 4 wide next year. Like how would they even have figured that one out?
Either Monday, if everybody wanted to stay, or possibly somewhere down the line in qualifying, they would have just done the math and figured out, how it worked. I don't know. I'm glad we didn't have to figure it out. But yeah, I think, if it had been, I was going to say 30 seconds later, you said 45, they wouldn't have run the race. But everybody knew it was coming. Everybody hustled around the corner. Everybody hurried up with their burnout routine and stuff because they wanted to get it in, and they got it in. And congratulations, Justin, on his second win of the year, just like Gaige Herrera.
Yeah, Jason Lee good to see him out there. I got some exposure to him at the World Series of Pro Mod, and he goes out there, gets the final round 001 red. JR Gray with a great 005 reaction time, but didn't get down the racetrack. Neither did Ricky. Good to see Ricky, period. Ricky Smith back out there, but Justin Bond for the win. And in the media center, we were doing a little TV magic, getting a winner's circle interview with Justin Bond. And you asked a good question, and let's throw it out there like this. We saw 2 centrifugal supercharger failures, scattering. Yes, like something where it's worth talking about. And what do you think is up? And what do you think should be done to address that? Is that like something where you can put a blower bag on it or what?
Well, yes, you could put a blower bag on it. Is that going to be done? I don't know that. I'll let others make that decision. But what Justin said, I thought was really telling, with some of the rules changes, Pro Mod is constantly under a juggle to try to keep parity between all of the different power adders. I hate the fact that I think there's only one screw supercharger out there now. I hate the fact that there's no turbo cars out there, at least for the moment, because the class is better when you've got all of the power adders going after it. But there was an adjustment made for the Pro Charger cars, and Justin said he didn't have his motor updated. A lot of the guys did, like a different camshaft, different configurations, different things. And his belief was that it had something to do with a harmonic, not a manufacturing thing, not a bad batch thing, not a defective part thing, but a harmonic. And since his car doesn't run like that, he said he wasn't concerned about it at all. I know that there's a lot of guys that know a lot more stuff than I do about that. And I guarantee you there's a lot of guys on the phone this morning, and there's probably stuff being overnight freighted here and there so they can do an analysis and see what needs to be done to solve the problem. But I never seen it before, and then saw 2 failures in one weekend. So I'm not ready to say epidemic, but I think that it's definitely something that needs to be looked at closely and then decision made. And I know they're looking at it.
Absolutely. But a great weekend of racing. I love watching the Pro Mods, and it was just, crazy 4-wide stuff. Don't worry, folks. We'll be back in 2024 with it. I also want to applaud the NHRA for making the call to run out the Lucas Oil Series on Saturday night while you and I had a late night. I think we got out of there like 10:30, 11 o'clock. David Eaton gets the win out there in Competition Eliminator. David, a big supporter of WFO Radio. He's even a Patreon, believe it or not. Gets the job done. We got to have that great success out there. And Barry Parker wins his first race. What was the stat? Like since 1990? 1990, 2023, Barry Parker gets the win out there in Stock Eliminator. John Labuse in Super Comp. Sherman Adcock wins his 5th Wally of the year, 4 on the divisional level. He's only run 2 nationals, as I understand it. 1 in zMAX, 3rd round in Gainesville. I don't know if that's like, people are saying lock up the world championship. I wouldn't say that just yet because there's people out west who haven't gotten started, but that's highly likely.
Well, but there's a couple of guys in Division 5, Division 3, and even up in Division 1 that haven't done a burnout yet. So, is he off to a smoking hot start? Absolutely. But I wouldn't pencil the name on the trophy just yet. The interesting thing, there was a little discussion came up about the all-time highest Sportsman score in NHRA history is Pete Biondo at 792. And could he possibly reach that or better that? Obviously, if he can keep the momentum going and if he can keep winning, then it's within his reach. But if he does it, it'll be a monumental task. Yeah, amazing. Sherman is just locked in right now and seeing it. But John Labuse said he's got a goal. He put it out there. I'm on a mission. He's on a mission to win the championship. And I think everybody goes on a mission to win the championship, but this guy's making me believe. Brandon Miller, who was attempting to qualify in Pro Stock, had that other Dodge Dart out there, goes out there and wins Top Sportsman. And Scott Neal goes back-to-back at the zMAX 4-wide. That was pretty cool in that dragster. And he was good in his winter circle interview, right? He was like, and oh, by the way, I'm looking for a sponsor. Why would you not want to get on board with a great family like that? Yeah, good guy, and obviously a good racer. It was cool to see his genuine enthusiasm and excitement at getting it done back to back. And I also, the call made to run them out on Saturday because the forecast Sunday was so bad, and who knows what we would or wouldn't have gotten done if they had held them over to run on Sunday like they normally do. Just because of the way when the rain did come, in the middle of the first pro session, and then that kind of sped up and hot lapped everything. I just don't know that we would have had time to get it all done. So I think it was the right call, but I also still think, and you and I have had this discussion before, I hate when the racers don't get the opportunity to come down in front of the full grandstand, to do the Parade of Champions, to have that moment to celebrate with a bunch of fans in the place. But in this case, I don't see that there was a better decision that could be made. So congratulations to everybody that won. And how about Nicole Stevenson? I mean, the last time that we ran, or I don't want to say that was the last time, but she, in Gainesville, when we ran the Sportsman to conclusion on Friday or on Saturday, and then came back and finished on Sunday a few years ago, she went to the final round there, and then she went to the final round here again. So I think if somebody starts voting on, who thinks we should run the Sportsman out, I think Nicole's going to vote, 17,000 times if you let her. She'll be sitting there, yes, 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 yes on the computer.
Well, it's a different style. Like, you can get into a groove. Like, you're going all those rounds, you get into a groove, you're feeling it on that day, man. You just go out there and you let go. And she was doing very, very well. Sean Bellemere, Mike Coughlin, Tony Stewart almost goes back to back. He gets to the final round. He has another different drag racing experience. This guy had been a machine on the starting line, missed it a little bit. Mike Coughlin, triple hole shot. And it was really fun. I've got a great just video of watching the McPhillips family try to figure out what just happened, right? Like, we won. No, we didn't win, but we really did win just over there. Rich Jr. with Mike, and Mike, who was in the final against Smoke last race, showing that Coughlin magic, right? It's like, oh, by the way, I'm from one of the most successful, famous racing families ever, and I know how to do this, and goes out there and steps up, triple hole shot win, Mike Coughlin.
Well, it was interesting because his car ran well. I mean, yes, it's going to go down as a triple hole shot because he ran a 30 and everybody else was 26 or 28 or whatever they were. But he also had a one flat 60 foot time, and everybody else is 940 and 950, 960. And he said in the TV interview from the top end of the racetrack, well, I did roll it in a little bit. And so, he had a good car. He got a result. And the fact that it goes down in history as a triple hole shot, I just think makes it even, because you get 2 times a year that you can possibly even do that. So the fact that he's got that little piece of history is, I think, pretty cool.
And that brings
congratulations to Mike.
And that brings us back to the conversation we started out with about, the different stuff that's going on the starting line and the people who are like, you can't do that. Mike Coughlin said, oh yeah, I'm going to roll it in deep. And he took home the Wally because of it. Like, he shortened the racetrack and he got there first, which is really all you're obligated to do. Get there first. You're the winner.
Right. But that's not the same as, hanging somebody out for 6.5 seconds, when you're going in stage. If somebody wants to roll in deep, if you want to, we stage with the headers. I got no problem with that whatsoever. That's all part of the game. And in the early rounds, if you're willing to risk losing lane choice to do that, great. But, as everybody's pointed out over the years, there is no lane choice in the winner's circle. So if you can shorten the racetrack up 4 or 5 inches in the final round, why wouldn't you?
All right, let's talk about something real important before we let you go. And everybody, share the show for this Alan Reinhardt wisdom moment right here that is about to come. Tell me if I'm overstating this. We are going back to Route 66 Raceway in Joliet, Illinois. We're going back to Illinois. We're going back to Chicago, right in the middle of the country. There's a lot of drag racing fans. There's a great history. I think the track was built in 1998. You were probably at the very first one. This track has not been on the tour for several years. We had the divisional race there last year. We are trying to save this track. We are trying to save this market. The NHRA is doing something special with this. Just about every category we have is going to be there. Got all kinds of cool stuff going to be going on with the Jumbotrons. I'm saying, and I want to know if you agree, that if you're a real hardcore fan and you don't like these stories of losing racetracks, maybe you want to go, maybe you don't want to go, but we need you to go to this one to save this facility and show that this is viable and that we can pack this house. But you talk to the audience right now and tell them, because we got a couple weeks to sell some tickets for this big event right in the middle of the country, major market, Chicago.
No, I agree with everything you said. I think that, we need to show the people that own this racetrack and the community that they need to have us come back and make this a regular stop on tour. This is kind of a cameo thing. William Tharp, the division director out in D3, put a lot of work in, a lot of phone calls, a lot of stuff in order to get us to permission, I guess, to run the regional that we did up there a year ago. That went over pretty well. And that made enough of an impression on the local community that they are letting us come back and have a national meet, which I think is great. The mayor of Joliet was out there. There were a couple of the county planners and some other high-ranking local politicians that were out there when we were at the regional event. They all want us to come back. They love the revenue. They love the spotlight that it puts on their community. They love all of the exposure and everything that they get. It's just a matter of convincing the people that own the racetrack and the rest of the people that have part in the decision-making process that this is a good choice. And the best way to do that would be to put a lot of people in the place and show them that the race fans will come out. They will support your racetrack. They will support your community. You got to give us a chance. And so I agree wholeheartedly. I actually said on the PA, both Saturday and Sunday, when we had some downtime in between things, that, everybody, I get asked on a regular basis, and Joe, I'm sure you do too, hey, zMAX is my home racetrack, or Dallas is my home racetrack, or wherever's my home racetrack. If I wanted to go see someplace else, what would be a good choice? And I said this weekend, there's two. First is Chicago, which is coming up. And for exactly the reasons you said, we need to show these guys, they need to have us come back. They need to make us a regular stop. I would love to see the racetrack open on a regular basis. I can't imagine in a car culture place like Chicago that you'd have scheduling issues, because there'd be so many people I would think that would want to have an event at your place. I just can't imagine that track not being successful if it's run wisely. But go to Chicago. Go to Chicago and support us. And the other one I said was go to Denver, because, you've heard me talk for years and years and years about how much I love Bandimere Speedway, the family, the facility, everything about it, and that this is your last year for Bandimere. But right now, Chicago, and there's so much stuff going on, with all of the categories that are going to be in place there. I love the fact that they're going to do the Pro Stock call-out race there, because that's unique, that's new, and, Chicago is pretty hardcore Pro Stock world back in the day. And some of the extra stuff they're doing too. I love the fact that Alex Taylor is going to be there. She is bringing her 55 to come do exhibition runs and do that kind of thing. And again, with NHRA reaching out to non-traditional NHRA influencers to come be a part of our event, we would love for our fans to see what you do. The drag and drive events are just absolutely amazing. We would also love for her fans to come and see what we do. There's no downside, right? I don't know of anybody that has ever gone to a drag and drive event and said, oh, well, that's it, I'm never going to another national event. And I don't know of anybody that's a national event fan that would see a drag and drive thing and hate it. It's cool. What they do is cool. So everything that NHRA is putting into this, and everything that, all the effort that Will Tharp has put into it, and I've had some outreach with some of the local radio stations and other things to try to promote the race. And yeah, let's support the racetrack, and let's see if we can make it a permanent stop, not just a cameo appearance.
Absolutely. Yeah, we need you on this one. Like everybody, we need you all hands on deck. It could be a 5-hour drive like Miami to Gainesville, but we need you. We got to save this track. We got to put on a great event. And, like Will says, Joliet is not Chicago. Like, it's close enough, right? Like Commerce wasn't Atlanta, but it's close enough. And Golden.
Ennis isn't Dallas. I mean, we could do that for years.
Ennis isn't Dallas, but come on, we're going to do it right in the center of the city. We'll do a road course. That's not what we're talking about here. When I fly into O'Hare, and that's that. It's Chicago. And,
I'm actually going in. I'm going in early to do a press lunch and do some other stuff up there. And I'm really looking forward to it. I always enjoyed when we would go up there and visit, because when we go to visit Joliet, I don't know that there was a year I went there that I didn't do something in Chicago, whether it was go see a play, whether it was go see a game, whether it was just go be a tourist and do something.
Yep.
But I don't know that there was a year we went there that I didn't do something in Chicago and leave some money in Chicago, simply because that's what tourists do. And that's, NHRA is kind of a traveling band of tourists.
It's my kind of town. Chicago is. Alan, great job as usual. See you the next week. Obviously, we'll talk as we get closer. Great stuff. But, do something positive with your weekend off.
Yeah, I haven't decided yet. I've got a couple of things on the maybe agenda, and I'll figure it out. I do know that my motorcycle over here is, pretty lonely. So I think I'm going to get it out there. Just looks like the weather's going to be okay in Arizona to ride this weekend. So I think I'll be out there spending a little time on two wheels.
I will be at Formula One Miami, right down the street from my house. I'm very excited about that, to go back and watch Ferrari, hopefully get on the podium again. Alan, great job as usual. Thank you so much.
All right, Joe, we'll talk to you soon.
There he goes, the voice of the NHRA. Alan Reinhardt joins us each week right here on WFO Radio. I saw someone in the chat section who was like, wow, it's really great that you had Reinhardt on. It's like, we've been doing this since 2004. 2005. Alan was on my XM show. I remember I worked at NASCAR Radio, and then NASCAR moved over to the other satellite radio company. And I was like, don't worry, guys. We got this. We're going to do another motorsport show. We're going to elevate NHRA drag racing to the national talk radio level. And I reached out to NHRA, and they put me together with Alan. And since then, I think we got on the air 2005 on Tuesdays, same day. Reinhardt and I have been having this conversation going back to 2005. It's 2023. That's pretty amazing. And now I work with the NHRA as well, and I'm super excited. And we've been having a conversation just like that. But if you're new to WFO, that's great. Subscribe, click the bell. There's a lot more of this. We're going to talk to the drivers. We're going to go inside of the sport. Right now, I'm going to show you some photographs and talk a little bit more about the event. It is going to be great. Simply look at this. Love an interview with Alex Taylor. Yeah, the social media influencer, right? Did anybody remember that? I own up to my mistakes. I'm at the finals. I get sent down there to do an interview with some social media types, right? Yeah, they're influencers, right? And one is Alex Taylor. And it's like, oh, so you ever been to a drag race? He's like, yes, I'm a drag racer. I drag race like all over the place. I was like, oops. Yep, that's mark that one down as one of the big mistakes. All right, before I get to your comments, and I want final comments in the comment section, guys. We want to be all over the board. Let's hear what you have to say. I want to tell you about a couple of different people, great sponsors, people who make it possible for me to go WFO. We do this show multiple times a week. Someone was asking me, like, how many shows do you do a week? It's like, as many as we can. As many as we can. We've already done our Ignition podcast. That's audio only. Now we've had a great conversation with Alan. And we do this every week, as many shows as we can. So subscribe, click the bell, write a review, all that stuff. And it's thanks to Marvin Rodak. Rodak'sCoffeeandGrills.com, 817-924-6821. This is gourmet coffee, roasted fresh per your order by a drag racer. He has made his own hot sauces and spice rubs, and the coffee is unbelievable. It's incredible. It's next level. It's from all around the world. And he does blends like Bang the Blower. He does a WFO radio blend. He's got a lot of themed blends. People like, you got to talk to him. People are like, well, can I order online? And the answer is no. You got to call Marvin, 817-924-6821. And in this social media dominated, device oriented world, it's nice to have a conversation with someone who knows what they're talking about and is willing to coach you up on something cool like coffee and kind of level you up for your coffee, hot sauce, spice rub, barbecue grill experience, located in Fort Worth, Texas. Frank Hawley was out there at the racetrack this past weekend at zMAX Dragway. They've got a program called the Dragster Adventure, which I want you to go on this program. You will learn about drag racing, but you're not trying to become a champion race car driver. It's just fun. It's a fun, adrenaline-filled experience called the Dragster Adventure. You go out there for a half day. You make 3 runs down the racetrack, a half track and 2 full track runs, but you're driving dragsters. You're showing up with nothing. You're having a good time with your friends, and you're learning a lot about the experience of drag racing. It's a great team building experience. It's a great corporate experience. It's good for your best clients or your sales team. Go out there and do something different. Remember when people did like paintball and bungee jumping? This is so much better than that. Go to frankhawley.com and get the full-on Dragster Adventure experience. And then there's Sam Tech, which this is a very serious, like, I love this family, Linda and Judson, because they've done such a good job of building a school where people that are interested in working with their hands and being a machinist can learn the proper way to do it. And then, whether they want to be or not, giving back to this sport that we all love. We need engine builders. We need qualified machinists. We need people who know how to tune EFI. We need CNC programmers for this amazing future world that we're watching build up all around us, where rockets can launch and then come back to Earth and land. And so many of those people are going through samtech.edu. This is not the kind of thing you do on a whim. It's a career choice. It's a life decision. Call Brian Massengill, ask for him by name, tell him you heard it on WFO, and he's going to point you in the right direction. Simple as that. And then there's the Patreons, Patreon.com/WFO radio. Patreon.com/WFO radio. You get to watch the recording session for the Ignition Show. You get to chime in and direct the show. You get to vote on all our major situations that we like. Should we do this? Should we do that? The Patreons all vote. And you get access to the Hear It from Heiner Pro Stock Show, which we just launched. It's going to be 7 episodes old today. Michael Heiner, the Get Biofuel team. And one of the Patreons is like, Joe, since you gave Heiner the show, which he volunteered to do the show, I didn't give him anything. He's like, hey, I'll do something for the Patreons. I was like, that's great. It'll be the best area that people have to learn about pro stock anywhere, to, pretty much ask a crew chief. And people have been asking questions, and we've been reviewing runs and talking about chassis dynamics. Since the show, their performance has gone straight up. It's a total coincidence. I'm not taking credit for it, but the audience is like, hey, maybe, him having this conversation has been helpful. Is that real? Is it not real? Find out on Hear It from Heiner. We'll record later today, but it's only for Patreons. And remember, if you sign up for a year, I send you a t-shirt in addition to all the other stuff you get by being a WFO Patreon. So that's kind of cool. Hopefully you will join and become a VIP member, a backstage pass holder. All of those things. You can be like Wayne's World. All right, let's get some comments in the comment section, guys. Your final thoughts on the race, like Eddie right here. Fast Eddie. He's a Patreon. We got a lot of Patreons. It's pretty cool. Bill, I wasn't arguing Chicago versus Joliet as a negative. I was saying it's nicer than expected place from my perspective. I get it. I get what you're saying. No, it was a little further than I expected the first time I went there too. If Chicago is the center of the clock, Joliet is down there at 7:00, right in that area. But it's, I don't call it rural. It's not rural, but it's kind of more wide open spaces, suburbia. But it's a beautiful facility, and we got to save it. And I hear there's some really interesting things that NHRA is doing to increase the fan experience. And I mentioned some of them on the Ignition Show. Hopefully you'll check them out. Let's see what Art says. And don't forget the great attention in the pits interviews. Once you look at one of those interviews, you will be hooked. If you love drag racing, Joe does a great job. Art, thanks, buddy. Thank you for that. Oh, man. My ego is so inflated thanks to all the people who say nice things about attention in the pits. And remember, you got to share them. You got to share them. They're out there on various social medias. But if you love the Sportsman Racer, if you've ever in your life said, NHRA doesn't care about the Sportsman Racer and doesn't do anything to help them, then you're obligated to share every single attention in the pits, because it's on you now. We've created this 5-minute video about them and their cars, and they reveal all these great details. And how many times will they get shared? They should each be shared 1,000 times, because it's out there. You can find an old one, some cool old CUDA. You love that car, you share it. Simple as that. Why haven't they hyped the Pro Stock call out? I think we are. We're starting to. We don't hype ahead of the next race. Like we hype Charlotte before Charlotte. When Charlotte's over, we hype Chicago. But we announced the Pro Stock call out at the beginning of the season. They have been tabulating points, and I believe Dallas Glenn gets to do the first call out. I think Hartford is second. It's going to be very interesting. And I think Camry got the final spot. I should have taken a photograph of that because I had the points. But there's a story on NHRA.com right now about the Pro Stock call out. So the hype machine is being wound up. You got to go to this race. You got the call out for Pro Stock. You got the Too Fast, Too Tasty Mission Foods races. You got so many different things going on. C5 Pete says, Joe, I'll be in town for the Formula One race. Give some insight where to see it best. Well, I have one ticket remaining, by the way, guys. One full event ticket that I'm trying to off that I'm about to put back up on Ticketmaster. If somebody is out there that wants it, you got to reach out to me like immediately. And my Saturday qualifying tickets. Hard Rock Guitar Hotel is having a bunch of stuff this year. Pool party Saturday night, all kinds of different events. What best place to watch? Be ready to walk. You can go anywhere. So the marina area, the swimming pool area, up into the stadium. I loved going up into the stadium because you can see the aerial of the deal. This year, I want to go into that canopy thing that goes back and forth, like a ski lift. I'm going to try to do that this year. Everywhere is awesome. Bring money, bring money. It's not inexpensive. The snacks and the food is great. Like, you're going to want to eat. Last year, you walk 10 feet, something amazing. You want to eat, whether it be espresso or just so many great things. Champagne, Ferrari champagne cocktails, it's $20 a pop, but you're at a Formula One race. So you're like, let's do it. Really fun stuff. Just had a great time. The atmosphere is amazing. Be ready for the sightseeing, C5 Pete. The sightseeing, like, there's a lot of great sights to see. A lot of great sights that you're going to like to look at, Pete. As far as in the local community, I don't know where you're staying. So I would want to tailor my recommendations of where to get dinner and where to go hang out to that. I like Fort Lauderdale. Being down on Miami Beach, you're a little away from where all that stuff is, but there's some good stuff going on down there. And Formula One takes over the entire community. Formula One is back. I'm interested to see what happens this year, though, because the Miami Heat and the Knicks are in the playoffs. And so the Heat are going to be active. And the Florida Panthers, they just defeated the Boston Bruins, who had the greatest regular season ever. And they lost in 7 games, and the entire North, New England area is in mourning. Sorry, guys. The Panthers, who knew? Wow, weird. But Panthers and the Maple Leafs will be in action too. So there's going to be a lot of competition in the South Florida community for Formula One this year. But I had someone tell me the family grandstand where I'm sitting is sold out, except for my seat that I have available, which is cool. Hopefully someone will buy it. If not, I'm putting it back on Ticketmaster. And go to Fort Lauderdale Beach. Go to the world famous Elbow Room and have beers right around happy hour as the sun starts to set and the sky turns pink, and all the fun stuff that's going on out there in Lickerdale. That's a great place. The Guitar Hotel, it's a casino. It's a Hard Rock. It's the world's largest guitar. From what I understand, they now own the Mirage out there in Vegas, and they're going to implode the Mirage. Think about that. They're going to implode the Mirage. They're going to build another one of these like what we've got, a guitar. It's got a great light show out there on the guitar each night at like certain times. They play music, they do lights, kind of like the Bellagio deal. A lot going on in South Florida, man. Great restaurants, great places to go. You can't go wrong coming to sunny South Florida. It is one of the genuine world destinations that people from all over the world come to Miami and enjoy themselves. Maybe you want to go down into Little Havana, Domino Park, go check out some of those great things like, John Leguizamo and his great new travel show. Everybody's got a travel show now. So we'll see. Nicole, who her family's Copper Head Gasket company just scored a victory out there with Sean Bellemere. This weekend, IRP is Top Alcohol Drags for Top Alcohol Funny Car at the Cletus and Cars event. Audience will be huge. Last year, rivaled the U.S. Nats crowd. I don't believe that, Nicole, that it rivaled the U.S. Nats crowd. Sorry. The U.S. Nats crowd's over 5 days, maybe 1 day, but I get it. Good, go. But I'd be saving my money for Chicago, right? Race your own lane. Talking about Alex Taylor. Love an interview with Alex. What else? Blake. My mom helped me buy WWE 2K23 tickets yesterday. Online features downloaded earlier this morning. So super excited. Yeah, I went to WWE with the Media Center guys. Kurt was out there. It was great. We had a good time. Josh Hatchett had a great time checking out WWE. But come on, man. How do you not let Cody Rhodes win the title? That's messed up. Yeah, you're very late, Jim. Parks, now that you're a crew guy, you're a little more tired on Tuesdays. Can we get in on the recording of the Heiner show? Dragster Jeff wants to know. That's an interesting idea, Dragster Jeff. Do you think it'll bring on new Patreons? Like live Q&A for Heiner? We'll see. The 426 wedge car was awesome. Yeah, Mr. 413. Yeah, great stuff. That one did very well. Thank you for that. Yeah, Steve Wan. He was great. We're always looking for cool cars, and we've had a slow start at the start of the season getting those things done. I put in my question for Heiner this morning. Monica says she's checking in late from oral surgery. Oh, good luck. Earl Nichols out there. Gotta love Mike Coughlin. Slow SET, but 14 reaction time on the well-deserved win. Top Alcohol Drags. Her beautiful green car is under its wrap that Earl Nichols painted. Way to go, Earl. Let's see. Gary, hi from Montana Karting. What a great race weekend. Bobby Jones was the golfer we couldn't think of the other night, who was a lifelong amateur. Ah, there you go. Thank you, Parks. Did you see that Will Smith and Larry Dixon going to be racing out there at Chicago? Packed field. Yes. Love it. And Taylor. That's right, Taylor. Hard times. Like when they give you a watch after 20 years. Hard times. Daddy. Way to go, Taylor. Way to bring up Dusty. All right, guys, I uploaded a couple of photos from the weekend. I just wanted to share a couple of cool things. Yes, I was working on NHRA on Fox this weekend. That's why I wasn't a big, giant part of NHRA.tv, although I did spend several hours on the mic every day, and it was great. But just looking at some of the screens and getting to see all the insides of the trucks was really amazing. The guys that work on NHRA on Fox, there's a lot going on the TV show, and pretty interesting. Great to see Ryan McGee back out at the racetrack. I know everybody knows the Marty and McGee show. Ryan is a friend from years back to the XM days. Rob Goodman, who is back in the sport. I don't know if Rob likes being on the air. Sorry, Rob. But Ryan, he's an on-camera guy, and I am occasionally. And so you're stuck in the picture, Rob. But great to see McGee back at the racetrack. Ryan McGee, if you've watched any of that, NASCAR stuff, like Gordon versus Earnhardt. He is as expert gets, knows college football and everything as well, is why he's been with ESPN for so long. But we had him out there at the media center. Also want to let everybody know, Hot Rod Randy's Horsepower Headquarters is the only place you can get the WFO Radio Podcast shirt. A lot of people have been asking me about this shirt. We had them made. We sold them out, and then they were gone. And people were asking and asking and asking. And so I talked to Randy Lynn, and I said, hey, let's just print them again and print a new batch. And so if you want the WFO Radio Podcast t-shirt, the Podfather of drag racing, you can get it at the Horsepower Headquarters out there at the event. So if you're going to Chicago, make sure that is one of the things that you get. And Randy Lynn has told me, right? Where is that? So I had these hats made, the one like Michael Heiner is wearing, some with the side logo, some with the center logo. I had like 12 of them done. And it's kind of a pain, right? Going over there and getting hats and buying them in advance and shipping them out and whatnot. Wouldn't it be so much easier if they could just be purchased at the track, some sort of something? And Randy Lynn is handling that. And so soon you'll be able to get WFO headwear at the track, at the Horsepower Headquarters. So go look for this trailer and say hi to Keelan or Tamara and yell WFO over and over again. Want to shout out to my friend Otis Henry. Otis won the NHRA divisional out there at Silver Dollar and then went third round at the National. Had to run David Morris of Morris Motorsports second round. Dave went red and Otis goes to the next round. Just shout out to Big O, who is a South Florida drag racing legend. Here's David Eaton, of course. He is a WFO Patreon. This photograph could have been better. I'm sorry, David. Just, popping shots, man, at the top end with his amazing A-altered planetary Division II Comp Eliminator champ. Got Oakley and Wright trailers on board. And right up on the wing strut, he's rocking the WFO sticker, which is super cool and has been a great WFO Patreon. So helpful in the show. And just a little note, they build everything on this car by themselves, he and Matt Rover, including the carbon fiber body. The whole car is hand-built by them. The engine is a gray Motorsports Pro Stock combination, but they are building it and rebuilding it themselves, handling it themselves. Congratulations, David Eaton. Shout out to Eddie from Garofalo's, who came into the media center. They were seen with social media Nikki. Eddie, we were pressuring him big time to make a big, like this guy has some of the best Italian food in the entire Concord, North Carolina area. And he loves drag racing and everybody loves Eddie. And so shout out to Eddie. Robert Hight, very intense, but very happy about his big victory. It was good stuff. Congratulations. We're going to get Robert on there. Took this shot in the rain, in the winner's circle of the Get Biofuel car. Of course, Heiner, going to hear it from Heiner not long from now. We're going to talk around 4 o'clock and then headed home. Came home, no travel issues, but I do have an issue at home. and it's these guys. These are the kittens that everybody is talking about, guys. There's 4 of them. This 2 are shown. I think that's Squeak and Pip. And I'm working hard to find homes for these guys here in South Florida. Like, the cat master over here trying to find homes for these little kittens. And I've had a lot of people reaching out to me. Nick Salamone from yourvelocity.com, one of our first great sponsors, reached out to me, and he's like, where are you coming up with all these kittens? And he's going to help me with like a trap and spay program. There's some cats around here, but now I've got these 4 black kittens that are just so friendly, right? They're like friendly cats. They come when you call them. Come here, guys. And they all come running over. It's great stuff. Final comments. Sammy Eubanks. Otis, my man, to tie it all together with a little Blues Brothers. Definitely need a WFO hat to go with my shirt. Yes, you do, Fast Eddie. What did you do for the TV crew this past weekend? Anything heavy, anything that was heavy that needed to be moved from one place to the next, I was in charge of it. And there was one moment with this big pile of dirt, and they said, Joe, we need you to move that pile from here to over there, but then when you're done, move it back. And I was like, okay, yes, sir. Whatever you ask me to do. No, I was the starting line reporter. Amanda was not at the facility. She was off doing sports car stuff. I'm sure everybody who watches Amanda knows that she is incredibly talented, and her horizons have expanded dramatically. She's doing Ferrari Challenge. She's doing Formula E. She's doing all kinds of different sports car stuff. She's doing NASCAR Craftsman trucks. She's doing all of these things. And that means sometimes she can't be at the NHRA based on her schedule. And so, Blake, you were pressuring me to have Amanda on before Charlotte, and I did not. And now you know why, because Amanda was not going to be in Charlotte. And it was not my thing to tell you that. So sometimes when things like that don't get answered, you should always assume that there's probably another layer or 10 on the deal. And so I got drafted into the Fox show where I was the starting line reporter. And did an interview with John Force and Gaige Herrera. We revealed, it was great. Miami Hollywood Speedway photographer Steve Grunwald, who works on the Richards Funny Car team, had a magazine from 1968 that featured Gaige's great grandfather. And he had it. And I was like, bring it to Charlotte. And we featured that on the Friday qualifying show so that everybody who is maybe knowingly or unknowingly biased against pro stock motorcycle, you're a drag car fan, but not a drag bike fan, so that all those people could see that Gaige is a 4th generation drag racing legacy that comes out of gassers from the 60s in Southern California, where his great grandfather campaigned a gasser, and his grandfather and great uncles competed in the car, and his dad is a racer and he's a racer, and his sister runs Super Comp, and they are not just pro stock motorcycle centric. They are all kinds of drag racing, whatever. And he's got a ride on a pro stock motorcycle and he loves it. And so we were flipping the pages and showing Gaige's history and talking about his legacy. It was great. And also part of my role on that is to stand on the starting line, and Brian and Tony will throw down to the starting line when I have a note, Joe's got a note on this. And I will say something like whatever the note is, like, hey, Eddie Krawick is riding better because he, had a hernia and he was in horrible pain for the past few races. He got it fixed and now he's better. There's a note that people didn't know. Like, it's a reporter job. You're reporting things that people don't know, like Bobby Lagana not being at the racetrack. That was the thing that was revealed on the TV show. And I did reporting. Talked to Palmer. Palmer mentioned it. Talked to Mama Kay. We called Bobby. Bobby, what's the deal? Bobby told me what to say. Like, this is the report. Gave the report. The report got on the TV show. So the labor intensive, by the way, like the amount of words versus the important information. Really interesting. But that's what I did on the Fox Sports 1 show this past weekend. And enjoyed working with those guys all 3 days. And also track announcing, and was down on the top end for the winter interviews for the Lucas Oil Series, and kind of did both jobs as best as I could. Fun stuff. Oh, there he is. Eddie is out there. What's up, Eddie? Good times. Glad you were out there. Yeah, it was Animal House. Okay. Otis, my man. I'm sorry. Tell Amanda I said hello. Maybe she's watching right now. That happens from time to time. Ryan McGee is awesome. Love the book. Ryan McGee is awesome. And like he helped me keep going in this career for a while back when I was on XM and doing something. The XM story is 100 years old now. That was like 2003 to 2009, something like that. But right in the middle of it, we were doing something very different when XM and Sirius were separate, and we were doing a NASCAR style show that, to put it in modern terms, like people would call in and compare it to Rome, maybe Stephen A right now, maybe a little more critical, maybe a little more intense about the drivers. And McGee offered me some really positive feedback back then that was like, oh man, I'm on the right track. Keep going with some of this. And then I got fired. Thanks, Ryan. So that's all I got. Appreciate everybody out there. Hopefully you had a good time on the show. And we'll be doing some winter interviews later on in the week. And the Ignition audio only podcast is up and available. And there is a WFO archive with literally hundreds and hundreds of interviews from moments and milestones from NHRA drag racing history. You just got to bounce around and find the moment. You can hear exactly what happened behind the scenes. And, the podfather of drag racing, right? We were the first. Now there's a bunch. And I love them all because it's funny how they all have a different angle. Speaking of which, last night watched the World Series of Pro Mod on CBS Sports. It was a very good and interesting show. Very good, capturing the energy, seeing something months later, all those racers, and to see Jason Lee out there with the NHRA, and now Manny Bajinga out there with the NHRA, and a lot of these guys. Justin Bond was there, and a lot of those guys are now out getting their toe in the water with NHRA. Justin Bond, much more than his toe in the water. But it was really great stuff. Let's see. Scott, great show. Can't wait to hear it from Heiner. Yeah, race-winning Pro Stock crew chief, the most recent race winner, the most recent Chicago winner, and got his most recent winner in Charlotte, Michael Heiner. So we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking to Michael about all this stuff. Don't forget our sponsors, Foggett and Bernie's and Phillips Connect and FTI Performance. They're not just companies. They are thrilled that we do a show about drag racing, and we're trying so hard to make sure everybody loves this sport so much that they're talking about it and thinking about it every day, whether you're listening to Brian or Wes or the Jasons or everybody who does a show. Keep it going. It's almost to the point where you can listen to drag racing nonstop all day, every day. Rodax and CIP1 KI. For all you people with Volkswagens out there, go check out CIP1.com. You will be shocked at all the amazing stuff that they have got for the air-cooled engines. All right, guys, that's going to do it. We'll see you next time. WFO.